Alright, so this tutorial is going to show you how to do what I briefly showed you at the end of class. I'm going to use my paint bucket tool and paint with it, or I could use a gradient. I guess I'll try to use a gradient. You can use either or. You can use a paint bucket and paint with a color. Or I can do this with a gradient, so I'll show you either way. So I'll call this one color, and I'll call this one gradient. So I'll turn this background off, and I'll go and I'll get a gradient. Remember, you can edit a gradient by clicking up here, and then I can edit a gradient. I'm going to call it Teresa, if I want to know that's mine. And I can create a gradient. Actually, I'll use this one. I like this one. And I can draw a line and make the gradient however long I want. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use the Paisley pattern. This would probably look better with a different color, so maybe I should change this to maybe a purple. And say OK. And now I'll go back and I'll adjust and make a gradient. Alright, so now I'm going to go get my Paisley pattern. You're going to want to cut it out, whatever pattern you use. You can go to Google and search for free patterns. Now if it has watermarks on it, like you can see here on this, it means that it is probably copywritten and you shouldn't use it. So I'm going to use my magic wand and I'm going to click on the background and delete it. Select inverse, because I can't delete it because the background layer is locked. So select inverse and then I'll copy it. Then I'm going to go to my layer and paste it. And I'm going to use the E for Eraser tool to erase this .com information. And if I would use this for me, I would clean it up a little bit, but for the purpose of the tutorial, I'll leave it. Now I'm going to call this Paisley. And again, you can adjust the opacity and flow, and that'll actually change how it blends in there. So I could put 50% and 50%, and that would allow me to have it kind of more into the background as a pattern. Now that's one way you can make it blend with the background more. The other way you can do it is changing the blend mode like we talked about in class. So you'll go to normal. Normal means you're going to see 100% of the pattern and the color. But if you go and you change it to another one like multiply, that usually darkens it. So I could do that, and now you can see it looks a little cleaner. I don't see those rough edges. And if that's still a little bit too dark for me, I can then go and adjust the opacity and the fill and make it lighter and more subtle, so that way my text will pop out more. So I know that's kind of fast, so I'll do that again. You're going to paste your pattern on your business card. I'll put 100% and I'll put it back to normal. So that's what it would look like at the beginning. So you could just go ahead on some patterns, and sometimes just adjusting the opacity and flow can give you the look you want. However, it's not working quite like I would want or what I want it to look like. So I'm going to put it back to 100%. Again, this is in your layers palette. If you don't see your layers palette, remember you can go up to Window, Layers. So now I'm going to change my blend mode. Each one creates a different type of look. So you can play around and see which blend mode you like. I just used multiply last time. Screen looks okay, but I think I'm going to go with the multiply. And it's still a little bit too bright and dark. I shouldn't say bright and dark, it's just too apparent, and it's going to be difficult to read my text. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try putting my opacity at 50% and my flow at 50%, and now it blends into the background more, and now I could use text, and then I have a texture or a pattern into my business card. So the same thing works if you wanted to do it with the other colors, like the pink and purple shine. I could select all, copy it, paste it on a new layer, and then now I can adjust the blend mode. From normal, I could say let's go to screen, or I could say let's try lighten. So adjusting the blend mode and adjusting then the opacity, I could say 50% and 50%, so now I have a subtle texture or look in the background. I could try the multiply like I did on the other one. It makes it a little bit darker. I'll try soft light. So you can play around with these blend modes, and it'll create different effects based on what colors are beneath it. So I could take this off and not have the gradient and just have the color. It's not as apparent because the gradient is a little bit darker.